Gary F. Epply served his alma mater with distinction for 42 years as a teacher, a coach, and an administrator. He loved this university, and his passion for students was palpable. Gary Epply preached excellence in academics and athletics. He was the superb role model for what he preached, a track star and a football star. Gary Epply guided the construction of the Stamp Student Union that has served about 1 million students since it opened and stands today as the hub of student life. He was also instrumental in the construction of Memorial Chapel, the most photographed and loved landmark on the campus. Gary Epply's contributions to the history of the university are far-reaching. He enriched the lives of students, developed the campus facility, and represented the university beyond College Park. His influence was in the bricks and mortar and also in the lives of the many people he mentored and inspired. The Gary Epply Recreation Center, dedicated to improving the quality of life of all our community, is a fitting tribute to the lasting legacy of Gary F. Epply at the University of Maryland.
I think he was probably most proud of how he did his job. He was called Director of Student Activities and Student Welfare, and as such, he ran the entire university outside the academic part. There was no provost in those days, so my father, the president, and the deans of the academic departments basically were the only university administration.
I don't know of anyone that had the welfare of the student at heart more than he did. I mean, he really cared.
He showed me that a person has a capacity to do a great number of things at the same time. It's a matter of organization. That's what I admired in him, his ability to instill that enthusiasm.
He was a very honest, straightforward gentleman. His word was his bond. He was solid. And as a result, people could count on what he did and what he said.
A Washington, D.C. native, Gary Epply first set foot on campus at the University of Maryland as a freshman in 1914, at what was then known as the Maryland Agricultural College. Until his death some 60 years later, Gary Epply's life was the University of Maryland. He served his alma mater in virtually every role imaginable, as a student, athlete, professor, coach, athletic director, and ultimately, Dean of Men and Director of Student Activities. His career at Maryland spanned 50 years, concluding in 1964.
He performed many functions, wore many hats. In truth, he was Dr. Bird's right-hand man, chief of staff, and when Dr. Bird needed anything done, he turned to Gary. His door was always open, and many students remember him fondly, and he helped many students, and I think that would be maybe his greatest accomplishment.
In 1920, delayed 2 years by military service in World War I, Gary Epply graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree. He went on to become an assistant professor of agronomy in 1922, and soon after started a 17-year stint as track coach. It was his role as a track coach that began to make Gary Epply a popular figure among the student body. Between 1930 and 1940, Epply's running teams were a force to be reckoned with at the Penn Relays, the biggest meet in America, taking home numerous victories and medals.
We had to work hard. There was no shortcut. He always had to be on the ball. We always had to work hard. And Gary Epply was the man that we thought was very responsible for all those things.
As a coach, he prepared you to run. He had you ready. So I go to the coach, I'm nervous. I say, Coach, how do you think I should run this race? The defending champion is in there and the record holder. What do you think I should do? And he says, you use the old Epply system. You get out in front and stay there and nobody will ever beat you.
Standing nearly 6.5 feet tall, Geary Epply was a towering figure over Maryland, both physically and metaphorically. He was affectionately referred to as Swede.
When he was a young, gangling teenager, tall, blonde, his father had an inn in Portchester, New York. A group of Swedish actors were staying at the inn, and Daddy was sitting on the steps or walking by. Somebody walking down the street saw this young, blonde, gangly kid and said, "Oh, look at the little Swede."
But no student ever called him Swede. They respected the Dean of Men, and in turn, he taught them integrity, honesty, and values.
Everyone loved him. They respected him. He was a man of his word, good or bad. He was there for the students. In his office, it was like Grand Central Station every afternoon. The students were piling in there to see him with questions, and he was always there to listen and give an answer. He was not a real talkative man. He was a man of few words, but he was a man of action, and he stood by whatever he said.
Geary Epply served in both World Wars, earning the Legion of Merit in 1945. But as World War II was nearing its end, the university was hit with a sudden, massive influx of former GIs. President Curly Byrd wrote Epply a letter demanding he return to work from the service to help figure out exactly what the school was going to do with all these new students.
All the infrastructure was challenged. A lot of temporary buildings were built, but it was a real challenge for the faculty and for the organization, and he was the guy that stood behind it. He was the guy that kept the lid on with so many students arriving and so many housing problems.
I'd say the number 2 person in having impact on what we have here today was Swede Epply, Geary Epply. Great guy.
Geary Epply stood for the students and provided the guiding hand behind many of the campus's key development projects, including the Student Union and the Memorial Chapel. He also led Maryland into the Atlantic Coast Conference, serving as a key organizer for the Intercollegiate Athletics Conference that Maryland still competes in today. His tireless dedication to improving life for the student body influenced the futures of countless undergraduates, including his 2 daughters.
I credit him with getting me started into the education field. And he sat down with the catalog and said, "Look, if you take this course and major in education," and I liked children, he said, "and head toward being a teacher." And then I did follow his advice, and I was a teacher.
In many ways, Geary Epply was a visionary. While college life at the time focused on academic endeavors, Epply endorsed a broader approach of working to develop a more balanced life. It wasn't enough to build the mind. The university, Epply felt, was also obligated to develop the body. Geary Epply was a highly visible advocate for what is today referred to as wellness.
The idea that people take care of themselves physically was very important to him. He taught that in the classroom, he taught that as a coach, he taught that as the Dean of Men. And so I think this recreation center and its programs are all committed to physical development and physical well-being and leadership. He really understood that the physical well-being, the well-being of the mind, the well-being of the soul is all wrapped up together.
In many ways, Geary Epply's philosophies form the core of today's University of Maryland, a school that strives to develop the whole person, the mind and the body of its students. Therefore, no more appropriate tribute could be made than to have the campus recreation center, the focal point of all student recreation, bear the name of Geary F. Epply.
In addition to just providing activities for students, we provide a lot of leadership potential for students, whether it's employment with the sport clubs, being a president of a club. Dean Epply was very much an advocate of life outside of academics. You know, he preached academics, but he preached an active lifestyle outside of academics also. And I think facilities like this and other facilities we have on campus allow the students to have that healthy mix.
The Geary F. Epply Student Recreation Center opened in 1998 and includes a national caliber pool complex, racquetball and squash courts, 2 gyms, dance studios, weight and fitness areas, an indoor track, and a world-renowned climbing wall. On average, the facility is visited by 4,500 students, faculty, and alumni every day, and 6,700 people per day at its peak. It's estimated that this magnificent facility touches the lives of 70% of the student body each semester.
My first impression when I walked through the doors was just wow, just starry-eyed. Where do I start? And what will I get out of this? And I can't believe I have a building like this to my own disposal.
It's a great place to socialize, great place to stay in shape, great place to de-stress when you're getting ready for finals week.
A lot of places really like to brag about having diverse students, but no other place really except for the CRC do you really see and feel the diversity in our student population.
Yet, as valuable as it may be to today's students, the lasting legacy of the Geary F. Epply Campus Recreation Center will be how it preserves the memory of a man who played such a vital role in the development of the modern University of Maryland.
I'm happy that an individual like Geary Epply's exploits and accomplishments on this campus have been received to the point that we're dedicating this facility to him. I wish I had an opportunity on a daily basis just to come here to train, because I would never get bored in any type of activity that I wanted to partake.
I think he would be extremely pleased, and I think the thing that would please him most is the fact that this building is involved with the students and for the, there again, for the welfare of the students that are able to use this. And I think he would be thrilled, absolutely thrilled.
In addition to naming this cutting-edge facility, the Division of Student Affairs has established the Geary F. Epply Fund for the enhancement of the student experience, focusing on 3 key areas: to enhance current and create new recreation venues, to support Maryland's nationally recognized sports clubs, and to establish the Active Student Initiative. This fund pays tribute to a pioneer in the area of student wellness, Geary F. Epply, whose name will forever be inscribed on the Campus Recreation Center.